Hey guys, it's Mr. Again. This is slip and slide factoring part 2. So we already went through and we looked at part 1. Part 2 is focusing on what do we do when the leading coefficient is negative. So in this example, we have a -1 as our leading coefficient. So I recommend factoring that -1 out of the trinomial. So if I factor a -1 out, I'm left with x squared plus 7x plus 10. Now, I have a trinomial with a value of 1. So this is simple. What two numbers do I multiply to equal 10, add to equal 7? And that's 5 and 2. And now this whole thing is my factoring the -1 times the quantity x plus 5 times the quantity x plus 2. Okay, so we didn't need to do the slip and slide there, but you get the idea how we're going to factor the negative out. All right, now, once again, same idea. We're going to factor the negative out. So I look at all three of my terms here. I can't factor the whole -2 out because 2 doesn't go into 11 or 5 evenly. So I'm just going to factor out the -1. And that's going to leave me with a positive 2x squared plus 11x plus 5. All right, so now I have an a value of 2. So I'll use my slip and slide. So let's not forget there's a -1 out there. So I'm going to move the 2 over to there, and that leaves me with an x squared plus 11x. The 2 is being multiplied by the 5, and I get 10. Now I'm going to factor that trinomial. Two numbers that multiply get 10, add 11, and that of course would be 10 and 1. So x plus 10, x plus 1. Now I take that number that I moved, that 2, and I put it in the denominator. All right, let's move over here now. Now I have to simplify those fractions, so I still have that -1 outside. 10 over 2 is 5 over 1. Remember, I need a denominator, so I don't just write 5, I have to write the 5 over 1. And 1/2 is already simplified. And lastly, I'm going to move this 1 in front of that x, 1x, and then just have plus 5 left over. Move this 2 in front of the x, and then just have a 1 left over. And then that is my whole answer. -1 times the quantity x plus 5 times the quantity 2x plus 1. Now, if you do not use the slip and slide or you do not factor the -1 out, you might get an answer that doesn't look exactly like that. Maybe you don't have the -1 on the outside, so maybe your answer is the opposite of x, minus 5 times 2x plus 1, and that would be the same thing. That's equivalent to that. That's just if I took the -1 and distributed it to the x plus 5. Or maybe the x plus 5 stays the same, and I distribute the -1 over to this binomial, and I get -2x minus 1. Okay, so all three of these answers are the same, they just are in different forms. Once again, negative leading coefficient. I can't factor the whole 6 out. I can't factor any factors of 6, like 2 or 3 out, so I'm just going to factor a -1 out. And that leaves me with 6x squared plus, minus 17x plus 10. All right, this is where I'll do my slip and slide. So the 6 is going to move over there. It just leaves me with x squared. 17x stays. And I multiply the 6 and the 10, I get 60. All right, now I'm going to factor that trinomial. And I'm remembering that this -1 still stays outside. So two numbers that I multiply, positive 60, add to get -17. And that's going to be minus 5 minus 12. All right, now I take that number that I moved, and I put that in the denominators. Come up here, and we'll simplify those fractions. Alright, so 5, 6 is simplified. Just leave it 5, 6. 12 over 6 is 2, but I always need a denominator, so I make it 2 over 1. Now, I move the 6 in front of the x, 6x minus 5. Move the 1 in front of the x, 1x minus 2. And then that is my answer. Or a form that could be equal to that. Alright, last one. Alright, now here I can factor more than just a negative 1, because if I look at all three terms, they're all divisible by 2. So let me factor out a negative 2. Alright, so I will have 3x squared minus 5x minus 12. Alright, now I'm going to do my slip and slide. Move that 3 over there. I get negative 2. Move the 3, so I only have x squared minus 5x. Minus 3 times 12 is 36. Now I can factor this trinomial. Two numbers that I multiply to get negative 36. When I add, I get negative 5. And that's going to be, nope, that's where that's going to be minus 9 and x plus 4. Now I'm going to take that number that I moved and I put that in my denominator. We'll come over here and we'll simplify this. 9 over 3 is 3. I make it 3 over 1. I need a denominator there. 4 over 3 is simplified. Now I'm going to take that number and put it in front of x, 1x. Take that number and put it in front of x, 3x plus 4. And then, there we go. There's my answer. So basically, we're still doing slip and slide when we have that leading coefficient that's greater than 1. But we want to be careful and take away or factor out the negative so that our leading coefficient is positive. If you don't do that, it gets a little messy and it's a little tricky when you're trying to use the slip and slide with that. So factor the negative out and slip and slide away. Good luck, guys.